a good opportunity because it is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Absolutely.
And I got a chance to sit down with the one and only man that I really hear often in conversation with mental health.
Yes.
So introducing Christopher LeMark. Thank you for this sit down. This interview is for the Chicago Defender for the Voices of Influence.
Voices of Influence.
Yes, okay. Which is not, something to take lightly, because influence and legacy are really what we know the Chicago Defender for.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And as we look at the legacy that has been created over the last 120 years, they're actually celebrating this year the 120th and focusing on the journey.
120 years?
120 years.
That's so much history.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's about the journey to empowerment.
Yeah.
And I think that what's so valuable about the history is that we're actually history in the making right now.
Right now.
Right now.
In this moment.
In this moment, in a way that people will look back on and really, like, this will be foundational times.
Okay.
So I'm excited to sit with you as an entrepreneur, as a Black man, and of course on the subject of mental health. But let's get into it, because this is not your average coffee shop.
No, it's not.
So take us down the road of how we get to coffee, hip hop, and mental health together.
You know what? I've been asked that question so many times. So I think I learned how to just get right to it. So when you look at why did this model even matter? Why did it come to fruition? Like, what was the thing, right?
That's delicious.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just had like a really terrible day in 2018.
Okay.
I just had a very, very, very terrible day. I was working like this job where it was a sales and marketing job. It wasn't the best position, wasn't making the most money. And it was a dead-end job. And feeling like a failed musician, being a hip-hop artist for 20 years in the city of Chicago, plus all the other stuff, right? You know, I grew up on the south side of Chicago. So this one particular day, I go to Starbucks at Millennium Park train station, and I just go to have like a cup of coffee to curb my appetite, because being a man who was getting ready to turn 40, I couldn't even afford lunch. I was just barely getting by, right? And so coffee for me was only to curb my appetite or wake me up. So in that moment, get away from the office, kind of embarrassing that I couldn't go hang out with the rest of my coworkers, right? So I get into the coffee shop, order a cup of coffee, I sit down, I'm listening to music, and I just started like crying uncontrollably. Wow. And the more and more I learned about that moment, it wasn't so much that I'm crying because of current disappointment. It's all this stuff that happened. It's the culmination of everything, right?
Piled,
Piled up, right? It's the growing up in group homes and shelters, foster care, being abused as a young man, as a kid, and not ever knowing my parents. It's the 3 suicide attempts, right? It's all the disappointments. It's never learning how to properly live this life. And I realized in that moment, it wasn't so much about I didn't want to like live. I just didn't know how to.
Yeah.
Right. And so this was the first time I allowed myself to fall apart.
Wow.
And so I think when you allow yourself to feel, it's so much freedom in that, right? And so in that coffee shop, nobody bothered me. I'm sure people were looking, but no one said a word. They gave me the space to fall apart. But the beautiful thing, not only was it a breakdown, but it was a breakthrough for me. So much so that in that moment, I was able to fall apart, get myself together, and then make a conscious decision to go to therapy.
Wow.
Right? And so immediately I go to Psychology Today. I find me a therapist. I start having these messy sessions where I'm just vomit at the mouth. I want to talk about everything.
Right? All at once.
Which I don't advise people to do that. Just learning, right? Because you can open up so many doors that you're not ready to face,
especially because that hour ends so fast.
Yeah.
And then you're off in the world with your thoughts.
By yourself, trying to deal with it alone without the tools, right? Yeah. And so I think around the 4th messy session, my therapist said, hey, you know it wasn't your fault. Your fault that you was abused, right? You were a kid. And that always ring in my head because maybe somebody told me that years prior, but in that moment I heard it because when you do go to therapy, it is the space that you can hear yourself the loudest because there should be no bias, no judgment, right?
Yes.
No one's projecting their stuff onto you if you're asking for advice.
Right.
So after having that messy moment, I went home and I just wrote down coffee, hip hop, and therapy. And then it makes sense, the therapy part, right? And then I started to think more and I came back and I crossed out therapy and I wrote mental health.
Okay.
And it was because that moment in the coffee shop allowed me the space. It was a third space for me to fall apart, right? So that's very, very important. You got to have the space to like fall apart and figure things out.
Yeah.
The hip hop obviously was the ability to journal all of these years about all of my pain, all of my transitional phases, and then obviously trying to get the triumph, which is freedom, right?
Yes.
And that's what hip hop has always done for me. So anytime I was ever suicidal or overwhelmed, I would always go write, or go perform, or go create something, right?
Yeah. Birth something new.
It's the bridge, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously, how do I use coffee, the concept of conversation? Because when you think about it, when somebody asks you to go get coffee, what happens?
Right.
Y'all go talk.
Yeah.
Right? And hip hop just kind of bridged everything together with the mental health because it's like, how do we use these cultural things to start giving people the space and the opportunity to tell really how they feel and then get resources and help from that.
Yeah.
So it's bringing all these three words together to ultimately give people a space and a vehicle to perfect and better their mental health.
What a beautiful implosion or explosion to implode out of you that which had to have been being built and created the whole time. And what we go through ends up being how we come out of whatever it was we were in, whether we knew we were in it or not.
I would say everything prior to that moment was a catalyst to get me here.
Yeah.
You know, talking to some of my friends, they would say, this is the perfect transition for you.
Yeah.
It just makes so much sense because even when I was doing music, I was always talking about motivating things or sharing my story. So I think this just brought everything together, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, after working, it wasn't easy. It was hard. I was like, do I quit my job? I know I have something. I launched on July 7th, 2019. So from the
a year from your
like just being, because it took a while to figure it out. Obviously,
but that's nothing,
right?
I mean, many people are sitting on ideas. I mean, let that be a lesson. Many people are sitting on ideas, waiting to perfect them. When the reality is that when that thing comes up out of you, everything you went through was to get to the point where it comes out.
Absolutely.
But then you have to nurture it, make it real, create it, and then see it into the world, or else you're not doing your part.
So you know what, like it was easy for me to create this idea and concept because I'm a creative person, number one. I had already been through so much. So I had all the information and the knowledge, and I just believe, do it scared.
Yes.
Do it now, do it uncomfortable, do it when it's the most messy, right?
Absolutely.
Because if you're genuine, at some point, all the things you need will fall into place, but you gotta jump out there, right?
Absolutely.
So I started creating the logo. I literally turned my music website, ChristopherLeMark.com, into coffee, hip hop, and mentalhealth.com. Right? I already had all the tools, right? I called any producer or like any promoter or anybody I knew from the music days to say, let me use your space. And I ended up using Baseline on July 7, 2019 to launch this concept. You were going to pay anywhere between $20 to $35 to be a part of this event, and it was going to be every bit of what the name said, right? Live performance, a conversation, also with therapists, and obviously coffee, right? And I had 20 people. 20 people showed up, and I remember my homegirl, Sandria, as you know, said to me, she said, this is different. This is not like the other shows where you got to meet a bar guarantee, sell a bunch of tickets as an artist. No, you're helping people because those 20 people that showed up poured their hearts out, opened up, received so much, and received so much, right? So now it's about who, not how many.
Yes. And how deep with those.
Absolutely. Yes. And the room felt big to me at that point, right? Yeah. And so a month and a half later, we go to the promontory, and there's 133 people. And it just kept growing. So I would say from July 7, 2019 to March 7, 2019, we ended up at Soul City Church, and it was packed, every race, right? And then obviously the world shut down because of COVID.
Yeah.
But I think the beautiful things in the midst of all of that, I launched the organization on July 7th, right? I started working with AT&T in September, and then we took over their Michigan Avenue location in November of 2019.
Okay.
So I'm sharing that because I didn't have none of the resources.
Yeah.
My company wasn't even legit at the time because I didn't know how to do it, because I didn't have the funds.
Yeah.
Like, I was struggling heavy my first year, even bouts of homelessness, right? But I stepped out messy, understood my concept. It didn't matter where I was. I knew it was temporary. So I confidently pushed a very messy concept.
Yes, yes.
But the people saw it.
And isn't that what the therapy of the mind is really like?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It is what later comes from organizing what was messy, what seemed bad, what wasn't right.
Yeah.
But it's yours.
It's mine, yeah.
And so now you are living this out. What does it feel like to be in your home, in your space, in this beautiful space you've been in for 3 years now?
Oh, man.
What does that feel like?
So I was just talking to a friend earlier about how even now, after doing this work, building coffee pop-ups and now a coffee shop, I only really know a third of the coffee business.
Okay, it's a big business.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about from people who really do this coffee thing. At first I had imposter syndrome. I'm like, I don't belong. You know, maybe I could just hire a bunch of baristas and I'll let them do the work and I'll go do the mental health stuff or rap, right? But it feels beautiful knowing that the guy that didn't come from coffee, the guy that's self-taught, nobody taught me, nobody trained me. I spent a lot of time locking myself in here. Everything, literally everything you see is by design. Okay. And I was able to design it all. I was able to create the menu. It's because I just believe in the ability to learn and to figure it out. Because when you have something, nobody's gonna believe in it more than you. And so after hiring a bunch of people, I realized that they may like what I'm doing, but they don't love it.
Yeah, it's not their dream.
It's not their dream. So I'm going to have to learn how to make coffee and do it well and put my own creative spin on it. So the reason why I'm highlighting, this is beautiful, it's nice to be in here, but I think it's a blessing that I was able to do this with probably even a little less of the third of understanding the coffee concept from the beans and the roasting process. I don't know all that.
You know it brings people, and you know it brings conversation.
Absolutely.
When that happens.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit more about how you became a therapist to others through your business ministry.
So I wouldn't say, well, I guess not a therapist in the...
Not the traditional term.
Right, not traditional
term. But this is your ministry.
Yeah.
And so how do you use that to share? Because you're a brother.
Yeah.
And I mean, the stereotypes and the stigma say black men don't do therapy.
Yeah. I made a decision. That's a good question. I made a decision to tell my story. I was going to use that to build the company because I didn't have any funding. I barely had any resources, but I knew I had a story. I knew I came from somewhere painful, figured it out a little bit, and I'm growing internally. And with the little bit of growth that I have, I can now share that with people who probably are struggling to open up and talk about anything because men, historically, you're soft, you're weak, and if you show any bit of vulnerability, right? And so for me, I wanted to tell my story to give people permission. So imagine all of those years of giving people permission by telling your authentic story and standing boldly on it, not folding, standing 10 toes flat, telling your truth. It inspires other people to open up. Because think about it. We're all socialized to be quiet.
Yes.
And we all are in relationships fearful.
Fearful when we get them, fearful when we don't have them, fearful we're going to lose them. Yeah.
And fear is a lie. Failure is a figment of our imagination.
But it's necessary.
It's necessary. But here's what I look, when I look at failure, you know, I made so many mistakes with this business. But that's not failure.
Sure.
I tried.
Yeah.
And I tried genuinely, right? So there's no failure in that. You make mistakes. Sometimes you can under or over calculate.
Yeah.
But this space, I call it a very beautiful mess. Because God took a very messy story, made it beautiful, put that together and said, now go tell that beautiful message.
To everybody else.
To everybody.
Yeah.
Giving them the permission. So if that may be someone's therapist in a non-traditional form, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I've been a traditional, well, a not psychological, but life coach for the last 12 years. And what I have found is that the things that have created our life story, that dash, right, become how we ultimately manifest our purpose and find out what we came here to do. I was in the music business. I was an entrepreneur. I had this business, that business, this business, that business, and depending on when you met me, depends on the mode.
Right, which version
you
of
know, right?
Yes, I know that feeling.
But if I hadn't had all of those successes, and I call them fail forwards, if I hadn't had all of those, I wouldn't have been a coach because unbeknownst to me, while my timeline was going, social media was coming around at the same time. So people were now watching my journey. And how'd you go from doing this? And I know your aunt just died, and I know that just happened, and I know you broke up with that guy. Why are you not under the bed when it's happening to me?
Why are you still moving? How are you still moving?
And I didn't realize that people didn't know the things about thought that create, whether you're thinking what you want or thinking what you don't want, you are still manifesting.
It's true.
And so my story became a life coach because of my perceived failures. And it's been the thing that I've done the most, and definitely the most impact that I've made in other people's lives, as I've turned those light bulbs on for them and worked with men along the way that were finally able to find that safe space and find themselves, let themselves out. So I really think that what you've done is taken some of the heat out of the conversation.
Yes, absolutely.
And music bridges all things.
Oh, you know what? It's a beautiful, first and foremost, thank you. It's a beautiful thing to take something that we are either directly affected by, which is music, or something that we passively experience, because when you go into a store, music is being played all day.
All the time.
Music, you know, I tell people that music is the only thing in this world that doesn't ask for permission. It just projects itself onto you.
Oh, that's good.
Right? It doesn't ask for permission.
The elevator,
right?
They don't care.
You're going to get this music. You're going to get this music, and you start learning songs that you're not even rehearsing.
Yes. And then repetition.
Because you hear it over and over and over again. Well, what if you were able to allow yourself to gracefully affirm yourself on a daily basis by way of repetition, by saying, I'm going to get better. And you say it when it doesn't look like you're going to get better.
Yes.
You know,
act as if.
You know what? You have what you believe. Like, I really do wholeheartedly believe that, because I know every single thing that anybody have seen, anything from the time I started organization to now, it is based on my belief.
Yes.
Every single thing. And most of these things I got, it had nothing to do with money. It was because I believed so much that the door was open for me to go get it. And I showed up. I showed up on my worst day, my messy day, my embarrassing days, because I'm embarrassed today, but I got to still work for it tomorrow.
Yeah. Because
I won't have the spirit of embarrassment tomorrow.
If I do something different
If I do something different today, like, you have to live in the moment. You have to be very present, which is why I try to release shame, fear, that spirit of like, man, I don't look the part. I don't have everything. No, like what you think you don't have, you have all the tools. Yes. You just don't have the surface cool stuff.
Yes. That
people say you need to be successful.
Yes. Which is not the ultimate of success.
It's not.
And I think that that's what people really don't get is when you actually attain success, you realize that the things that come with that are the things that money can't buy. And
this is very true.
It's the lifestyle of what you can do because of how you feel.
Absolutely.
And how you move about and how people respond to you, which will give you the world.
Absolutely.
And has nothing to do with money. I want you to tell me a little bit about your previous career.
Sure.
Because I believe that there's a young person that would want to see themselves ultimately being successful and finding a space in business, but right now they can't see letting this career go. What would you tell that person that maybe is trying a little bit past the time and maybe the new idea is in them and they just won't let it out yet?
This is probably not going to come out like the way you or anybody is expecting it to. But I would tell the musician first.
Okay.
Like the musician, the artist who has this gift, who want to go on tour, who want to be a recording artist, I would tell them that a good life, a healthy life, a stable life also inspires good music.
Oh.
Right?
Run that back.
A good life, a healthy life, a stable life also inspires good music.
You don't have to be a struggling artist to make good music.
That's all I'm saying.
Say that.
I had this mindset, I'm not gonna pay my rent. Somebody gonna discover me. I just gotta like put on a show every month. I gotta go to the studio. And I'm thinking that the pain is making great music. But it wasn't. I was just making music based upon my experience. And music is subjective. Somebody may like it. Somebody may think it's depressing. Everybody sees it and feel it different, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't until later on I said, man, I sacrificed a lot of good experience, a lot of stability because I thought that I just had to throw everything in one basket.
And so a man thinketh.
So is he.
He is.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
And yeah, what you put out there, you're going to get good or indifferent. And I was always hopping from couch to couch, homeless. I'll get a little money, go do a show. Can pay the band, can't pay the band, right? So to answer that question, no. If you're an artist, do it smart. Go get a healthy life, right? Go get you an apartment. Don't overspend, right? Don't live above your means. And then budget quarterly when you can go to the studio. But rent paid, your car note, you got all the things you need because it sucks to have a bad show and you got to go back to the hotel or sleep in your car.
Yeah, that ain't a good life.
That ain't a good life.
That ain't a good life.
Right?
And it, starts some of the slippery slope for us too.
Yes.
That doesn't have to be slippery.
It don't.
And I think that the biggest mental health month takeaway is monitor your thoughts.
Yes.
Because nobody else is going to.
No.
And if you catch that your thoughts are starting to be negative, then you'll catch your feelings that get negative, then you'll catch your emotions.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get it until it gets to emotions, sometimes it's too late.
And that's the thing too, like most people don't know how to regulate themselves to even learn how to calm yourself down. So we do whatever, we say whatever because we feel it and we feel it so deep. But if you don't know how to manage yourself, you'll say the wrong thing, you'll think the wrong thing. And the more you think the wrong thing, it really does become your truth.
Yeah. Like attracts like, and that's the truth of what it is.
It is.
Well, thank you for this opportunity into your journey, but also what stability really means, because I think that it's overlooked in what it actually takes to be stable nowadays. Yeah. Everything is so, seemingly quick and, this hustle this or this thing is fast. And that doesn't always create stability because things that are built over time then become more stable.
Yeah, like I do want to share this, like in closing, because you asked a very important question. Like the part about stability and building a good life is one part, but I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my very first job at University Park at Regal Farm, 15 years old, chasing chickens.
Chasing chickens.
Cleaning like the cages of the animals.
Okay.
It was lessons in that. But working for like Denny's and IHOP and Cracker Barrel, I learned so much at Denny's, being 16 through 18 years old. I learned how to be patient with people. I learned how to serve.
Yeah.
And I learned how to remember the importance of someone's order. And I learned that when people enter the space, they're not just coming for the food, they're coming to be served, a place to hang out for a moment. They want to escape reality for a moment. And there's so much value in that. Working in the sales and marketing industry for like 10 plus years, sales 20 years, all of those years of those different jobs, whether I was contracted to market someone's small business, whatever it was. Even my last job, I was selling data and I was doing marketing for all small to big companies. And all of those years of all this information is what allowed me to do this. Yeah. Without having like the job where I was selling knives, going door to door, right?
Yeah.
Because I worked and I did every type of job.
Yeah.
Right? Fired, quit, right? Learning how to respect authority, because one day I become authority, right?
Yeah.
And I just believe that all of those experiences will lead you to purpose if you just be open.
Just be open.
You just be open.
And listen.
And you gotta listen.
You gotta listen to that internal.
You gotta trust yourself. We're all seeking advice. And in the world of social media, everybody has a podcast. I'm not dissing it. I'm just saying we're listening to so many people. We are attaching ourselves to so many different perspectives that we can't even hear our own voice.
Yeah. And we don't know what our own ideologies are.
We don't know.
And how to examine or hear the difference between. And that's such an important part.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's very important.
The mental health of people is distressed right now. And it takes more centering, more focus. I'm a big proponent of meditation and stilling the thoughts and processing thought to release things that no longer belong to you.
That's the part, and that's what I would share with you all. You can't change somebody's perception of you. You can grow, you can get better, but if a person see you for who they think you are, that is on them.
That's not your business.
You can apologize, you can ask for forgiveness, you can forgive, but you have to live your life and you have to stay true to yourself, and you can't allow people to stop you from living your life.
Oh, those dream stealers?
Yeah, like you can't.
Did you have some of those?
Every season. And you know where it comes from? It's not so much, I don't think a person wakes up and say, I'm gonna try to steal or crap on somebody's dream.
Right. They just don't know.
Yeah, and a lot of times when somebody don't know who they are, it makes them uncomfortable to be around somebody who's so confident about who they are.
Absolutely.
Because it exposes your lack of understanding of self. Yeah. But I would say, get around people who are smarter.
Yes.
But they love you.
Yes.
Not just smart people that value who you are at your level.
And that you respect enough
to
actually listen.
Absolutely.
When they are providing restorative suggestions. Because sometimes we have the people and we dismiss them, but listen for that one thing from somebody else who doesn't know us at all, and now we either don't do or carry down a road that wasn't ours to go down because we're not listening internally.
Absolutely.
Man, we could have this conversation all day.
I know.
We should definitely keep more conversations alive, and I would love to come and cover an event.
Please.
And I mean, this Tito, what is this called? People need this.
So this is a Victoria Monet. It's a coconut and strawberry lemonade.
Oh, I'm glad you hooked me up with this. I needed this in my life.
I got you.
Come check us out over here at Coffee, Hip Hop, and Mental Health. Christopher LeMark, thank you so very much.
Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.